Hello, myself, Professor Dr. Pijush Dutta, from Associate Professor and Program Director of AP Institute of Mass Communication. So today we'll be talking about the research problems for the PhD orientation second lecture. So let's share the presentation and we'll start with that. So we'll be talking in terms of how how we will do basically to understand the research problems. So formulation of research problems and steps of research. And when talking about the research problems, we will be talking about the different kind of problems we are facing. So what are the key concepts we'll be talking here? Formulation of the research problem, components of the research problem, factors of the problem identification, nature of the problem, sources of identifying research problem, process of formulation of research problem, criteria for good research problems, problems of research in India, and linking research to practice and steps of research, and also research ethics, performance monitoring in research. We're talking about formulation of research problem. What makes a good research problem? What makes a good research problem? Research questions for theory development and research questions for practical application. Turning research problem into testable hypothesis. When I'm saying testable hypothesis, which you can test properly in terms of hypothesis. So your hypothesis should be clear based on that. What is the problem? When I'm saying research problem, defining the problem is very simple. Problem is an interrogative sentence or statement that asks what relation exists between two or more concepts, like two or more concepts, what are the relations exist? Then a problem can be related in one or more ways to produce testable hypothesis. As I said first also, testable hypothesis. A good research problem often produces more than one testable hypothesis. Always can come. A good research problem often produces more than one testable hypothesis. Then we'll be talking about, after defining the problem, the characteristic of good research problem. What are the characteristics of the attributes and benefits? Characteristics of the good research problem should state the concept or variables. Should state the concept or variables. To be related clearly and ambiguously. Clearly and ambiguously. Should it be testable? Should be feasible. When I'm saying feasible, it's a doable, it's a practical, you can do it. Given resources means whatever your resources for the research problems are there in and around, or is it feasible? Is it doable? Then come three specific criteria for research problem. Three research specific criteria for research problem. What are those? What are we going to learn? The research problem, based on that, what are we going to learn as a result of the proposed project that we do not know now? Again, I'll come back to that. What are we going to learn as a result of the proposed project that we do not know now? And the second point, the second characteristic or specific criteria, why is it worth knowing? This criteria, the specific second criteria, why would like to know, or why is it worth knowing? The third is, how will we know that conclusions are valid? How will we know that the conclusions are valid? And then comes the research question. Then common mistakes in defining the research question. Very broad area of interest sometimes. Too narrow also sometimes. Cannot be measured. Some research courses also sometimes you get cannot be measured. Problem is trivial or already understood. Problem is trivial or already understood. Then come, so what is a good research problem statement? Let's talk. What is a good research problem statement? The research problem statement is basically to investigate the presumed effect of A, B, and C on X and Y in a population. Come back. I'll just come back to you again. The research problem is to investigate the presumed effect of A, B, and C on X and Y in population. Now, you will be justifying the research problem. Explain what is not known about the problem. How do you justify the research problem? Explain what is known about the problem. Why does the problem matters? Why does the problem matters? Then provide documentation. Provide the documentation problem. This is actually a problem. Available statistics will be data and the statistically available literature reviews also show that this is needed or needed area for your inquiry for your research problems or research justifying your research problem. What is not a justification? I said for justification, now I'm talking about what is not a justification. No one has looked at it before. When I'm saying not a justification, no one has looked at this research problem. And literature has failed. Literature review has failed to address the issue. Then obviously, then you think it's interesting. Obviously, you have to think it's interesting. If it's interesting, then there is probably a justification buried in there. But you have to spell it out clearly. When you have to spell it out, then where from the sources come from identifying the research. Where is the sources? The researchers' own interest, they will create or they will find out the sources. Sometimes they will find out the contemporary interest of the researcher. So the identifying the unexplored areas. And then come researchers' own interest. When I'm saying the researchers with the different values to tend to choose different topics for investigation, it is always advisable and better to select the problem based on own interests of the researcher. Means you are the researcher, you will be your problem based on your own interest. Also, researchers should say, hey, may select a problem of research from given situation or environment or circumstances or existing theory as per his or her interest area. Contemporary interest of the researchers. In the busy world, a researcher may come across various problems for specific study. Beside problems, personal interests, social or business environmental conditions, you often shape the preferences, investigation in order to identify the research problem. Since societies and all business environment different in respect of the premium they place on the work different fields, hence this difference affects the choice of our research topics. Gap in the research theory. When you find in the research problem, you will find the gap in the existing theories, analyzing the existing gap and available theories of principles in literature. Irrespective of rapid expansion of communication, there still exists a gap between what is unknown and what is known. This identification of gap between the two is the task of researcher while selecting a research problem. Linking the research to a practice, always remember, linking the researcher must pay greater attention to the production of their research, finding flexible range formats in recognition of the varied needs of readers. The research is about both generation and initiation of findings and initiation policy expression. The research institution makes values to its staff, members, and to the public. It establishes a common vision and the values measures that can be engaged to achieve accessibility, information content. Steps 2 of the research. First, identify the research problem, steps of your research. Then scan the existing environmental situation. Then fix the objectives, alternatives of the study. Scan the existing literature. Scan the existing literature review. Formulate the hypothesis. Develop the research problem. Develop your research plan. Then comes planning of sampling design. Then comes collect required information, tabulation, execution of data, testing of hypotheses, finding the relevance, preparation of the report, or if necessary, calling public opinion, presentation of the research findings. And research ethics is another important point. You have to follow the ethics, complex set of values, standards, institution schemes that help to constitute the regulate scientific activity. Ultimately, research ethics is codification of ethics of scientific research based on general ethics or scientific research, just as general ethics is based on consensus of morality. Research must be regulated by ethical standards or values at least where there is a disagreement about what ethical standards apply, confusion conflicts can arise. And the performance or in monitoring research, very important, performance monitoring research. Research results can be used in monitoring the performance of the researchers, your institutions, and disciplines. One way achieving this objective is through organization, publications, and bibliographies to guide colleagues and interested personnel in tracking and matching new publications. You have to do bibliographies and also citation. A lot of bibliography in the research work are usually consisting of list of publications used in the study as well as it provided some information about the author. Assessment of the preference of research work with the help of bibliography cannot be treated as a standard measure preference appraisal of a research work. In the condition, also citation will be there, instruction will be there, and the processes will be there. And finally, the conclusion. Research, before going to research in any field of knowledge, should go thoroughly into the various steps, process of research, and has to design his research, your research. This may act as a guideline in the research process. All research disciplines subject to research ethics obligations, that is, requirement for interesting, relevant research issues, verifiable document issue. Your document issue, verifiable, impartial discussion of conflicting opinions, and insight into own's fallibility. So, all about the research problems and formulation and the steps of the research and ethics. Any questions you can put down in my chat box, or you can send me through any email, and please ring the bell. Thank you.